I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Gary Webb. I am an investigative journalist, and in 1996, I wrote a series of stories entitled Dark Alliance, which was about CIA involvement in drug trafficking.
I knew a man who once said death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
We've both been skull and bone, the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number 322.
I sad duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russert, collapsed and died early this afternoon.
I may die in this cell tonight or in the arena tomorrow. I am a slave. What possible difference can I make?
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
What the fuck is up? Welcome to Already Dead, your weekly conspiracy variety call-in show. I got Austin with me today. Fucking, you ready to get into it, bud?
Oh yeah,
yeah, dude.
My mind's reeling already, my friend.
Yeah, we were talking. We were going hard in the fucking intro. I do want to let our Rumble audience know. I'm sorry. I think we had a super chat or two last episode. I slipped and I wasn't paying attention to it. It was my bad. I need to start keeping it up. So I will, if you do super chat on Rumble, I will mention it. I don't have the capability to bring up on screen because that's just the way StreamYard works. But whatever, I will definitely bring it up. I just wasn't paying attention to the Rumble last time. My bad. That will be done in the future. But keep in mind the second half of the show, you also have the option to call in. You have the option to. We'll give you the number about like 45 minutes to an hour in. Or you can just interact in the chat, and then also me and Austin both have patrons where you guys can become members of, and we give out the StreamYard link every week, so you guys can hop in as a talking head too if you want for a little while. So yeah, so I mean whoever was that super chat, if you just let me know, like I'm paying attention to it right now. If you pop in this time and I'll take your word for it, honor system, just say it was you, I'll bring it up. So but yeah, anyway, sorry about that. Let's get into it. We were talking Gladio and how that almost certainly ties into pedophilia before we got into it. Before we started the show, we were already reeling, going deep down the rabbit hole before we even started the show. It sounds like you... I know we were talking before. I feel like for a while, between like the Belgium connection and then like, those who've looked into Gladio and then just like kind of like the pedophilia Epstein elements, like you just feel like, because obviously the Belgium component makes it like more Gladio being like a network, a worldwide network.
Definitely.
I feel like a lot of people have been reeling for a while about like making these connections of like kind of between like global pedophilia and like how does that tie into Gladio? Because that just seems like a built-in, kind of network already. Why not use it if it's the same players roughly? Exactly. And it sounds like you kind of been digging down a rabbit hole that brought you to where you felt like you found maybe a little bit something that strengthens those connections, makes that pattern recognition a little bit more like, all right, dude.
Oh yeah, it's glaring. I mean, what I think is so insane is that when I first started, just honestly, it was when I went on Adam's show. Deborah Gets Red Pilled back in like February or something. And I had he had brought up Colonia Dignidad, and I had it like somehow I was like thrust into Luc Jouret and the Order of the Solar Temple. And so I looked up this picture. Honestly, all I did was type in Order of the Solar Temple. And one of the first pictures that pops up is the mass death suicide allegedly that took place. And I instantly saw Jonestown. Like, that was just instinctual reaction, was the pavilion at Jonestown in Guyana. Like, it looked exact to me. And then so just kind of through the Dutroux network, like that clearly paved an one of the most extraordinary paths as far as a Gladio connection to a pedophile network that has ties to the elite strata of society. And I mean, not only that, but secret societies like Le Circle and Opus Dei, which clearly seem to consistently come up in all these circles that I've been looking into and that we've been researching lately. I mean, it's like, I feel like I've never in my life have I been like more schizo, it seems, because that like, but I've never felt more like vindicated in a way because of how much there seems to be such extraordinary credibility there. And again, nothing that I've ever wanted to admit. I didn't expect this to be the case when I got into all of this. And like we were talking before we went live, like I feel like it's hard for the average person to kind of conceptualize the idea and the fact that really think about how lucrative gun running and running drugs has been for so long. And then just all you have to do is introduce the factor, like the aspect, the component of human trafficking.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you got to think, like, I feel like maybe we're getting to a point where the populace is getting closer to that, because think how much the paradigm has shifted in such a short period of time in regards to things like Epstein and, other, things that become kind of light and become common knowledge. Right. And so it's like, I feel like it's just a matter of people starting to kind of connect those dots of like, hey, because a lot of the things we've talked about here already are like truths that in like the parapolitic world and even in sort of like, respectable parapolitic world or whatever have been kind of accepted truths, like Gladio. Like you can find, there's probably stuffy professors somewhere that teach classes on this that are like, super left liberals or whatever the fuck, and so these are established things, but now we've gone to the point where now the common knowledge is like, like these networks exist. Right. And they run drugs, they run guns, they do all these things, they use these to front companies. And it's like, okay, but like you have all the elements of maybe, and now we've established that these same people engage in pedophilic. And then even if you go a layer deeper, which you would be like, how can you even go deeper? It's fucking wild. And then you get into like satanic. And I don't even mean in like the, like, I mean like worship Moloch, Baal, whatever. If you're a Christian, I guess you can understand it's Satan. Whatever the fuck, they're doing dark shit. Like there's another level, and that involves like murder, pedophilia, stuff like that. It's like then you start to realize like, like why not? I mean, we can even just stop at the pedophilia. Like you don't have to accept the Satan part. If you're at pedophilia, you're like, okay, well there are networks. Yeah. So like, add 2 + 2. Like see this pattern recognition shit going on. So
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's the book, huh?
Yeah. That was kind of what came to mind when I was talking about Gladio. Because Gladio is actually, I feel like I haven't been in the parapolitics world for too long, but I feel like it's actually more common with like the commies and even like almost the college types you might think of, because it is like this like, oh, look how the government tried to fuck over commies, and that's the angle they come at it from. And I'm like, I mean, I'm not like too upset about the commie part, per se, but like, if anything though, I'm more like, that's like a really, really reductive way of looking at it.
Right. Exactly. It's like when we keep mentioning Roy Cohn outing himself to Detective Rothstein, he's like, but it was all for the mission against communism, right? It was our anti-communist agenda. And it's like, well, that doesn't make it okay, my friend. Like, what is going on in your brain?
I killed and raped all those women to stop communism, guys.
Exactly.
We had to rape all those Vietnamese people.
Right. And this is clearly like, it implicates to me, it's sort of an implication to the psychology of a sociopath, that we're mentioning. So of course they wouldn't leave a black market like that untapped, especially one as lucrative as human trafficking and sexual trafficking, as well as all the other additional components like blackmail, sexual blackmail, all the other factors that are at play in a network such as that. Child pornography, snuff films, all of it that came up in Son of Sam. It was so clear that the murders were obviously, yes, okay, they had, a lot of the members in the divine 22 disciples of hell, or whatever the hell it was called, they clearly believed in this sort of, ritualistic ultimate sacrifice of like this OTO vein of satanic esoteric, this doctrine. But at the same time, like, it's just like, it was so much more than that, because even David Berkowitz himself admitted to Maury Terry in an interview that there was a van that was sitting out, and there were at least 3 individuals in the van when one of the murders took place. And he claimed, yes, they were filming it for snuff film purposes to then sell later on. And so it's like, of course, that's a part of these networks, of these cult groups. Henry Lee Lucas was saying the same thing as far as the Hand of Death cult and Metamoros in Mexico there, where, they're not only do they have like, groups that their only job is to perform kidnappings, right? I mean, another group is allegedly trained in the art of assassination, right? So it only makes sense to me that as long as there are people that are that immoral and that willing to commit heinous acts to that level and to that degree, to that extent, well, there's clearly going to be a role for them to play within these networks such as this, right?
Yeah.
And
it
so
is crazy how, sorry to cut you off, but it's just wild how all these things connect, because that immediately started making me think of like cults like MK Ultra, and you're like, this, and how MK Ultra likely moved into cults, and it's like these things just all bleed together. It's like, it's hard because it's like these cults come along, and so you have this maybe some sort of MK Ultra and some of these different cults, stuff going on, and these are likely, it only would make sense to also bleed that into your Gladio networks. And so it's just kind of like, how do these things evolve? I mean, obviously, I don't think there's actually like an Operation Gladio anymore. But when we're saying this, we're describing essentially, what it is in essence, as opposed to what it is in name.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's just wild that, like, I mean, once you start putting these things together, it just kind of just makes sense. You're like, yeah, that would make sense. Like, you already have these Gladio networks. Like, it only makes sense. Like, you can use this drug money or whatever to fucking, you have these people MK Ultra to work for you, or get your whatever you want out of them. It is one of those things that is kind of hard to wrap your head around. I just do think it takes a lot of reading, but I think a lot of people get the basic elements. But sorry, go on.
Definitely. No, you're good. Yeah. I just find it extraordinary, the similarities between, and I kind of think that I have an assumption that there might be some credible, tangible connections between what happened with Jonestown and this Luc Jouret group, because at this point, I'm not entirely sure that aspects of Jonestown didn't just transition to a different area. Like, it really does seem like that possibly took place.
Took some notes, moved somewhere else.
and I mean, it really, it makes a lot of sense, especially when you look at like this group, the Order of the Solar Temple. They kind of like, and it like, keep in mind, like, you mentioned MK Ultra, over 100, at least over 100 sub projects, like 149, I thought, or something like that, sub projects of MK Ultra, and it's like, now clearly they all had different goals in mind, right? I mean, that only seems natural to me, and it should kind of just be almost our next transitionary thought. It's, of course, that would be the case, and so for me, I think the same thing happened with Gladio. Like, it really does seem that way, and again, like, they just utilize those rat line networks. They utilize these private intelligence organizations and these different groups that were involved at different levels. A lot of it compartmentalized. That's how they operate. And when you're running covert operations, like everybody is under the assumption, apparently, that all the individuals are read in on the ultimate goal. That's never the case. It's never been the case. And so for me, it's only a product of how they operate in the field. Like, of course, that's what happens. And so then you have individuals in the groups that are, devout. They are true believers. They're all in as far as the doctrine is concerned. They've been convinced. And then you have selfish aspects of the leadership. You have all these different dynamics that are at play. And when you look at the Order of the Solar Temple, right, it's like they call them OTS, right? And like it's this merger between the Knights Templar and the Rosicrucian Order. And like the original founders, this Luc Jouret and the other's name, trying to remember now.
Was this
his
pre
name
or
is
post OTO? When was the time frame for this?
This was like 1984 when they did this merger.
So it's well past OTO. Okay,
right? Yeah,
because OTO I think was supposedly some sort of offshoot in some sense of the Knights Templar, or at least they claim. Seems like every fucking at least. And almost every one of these groups, around that time or in that vein, seem to make that claim at the very least. Now, the truth of it, I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? So, like, I do feel like that is a common claim. I mean, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer on that specific angle, but I just always notice it always seems like with these, weird groups, they do make this claim. Now, they all could be, and I wouldn't be surprised, but
right. And I honestly
the same thing, and because I mean, OTO, OTS, like, I mean, how much fucking different really is this? You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. Yeah. And that clearly, I think, is like almost, that was a part of the plan in a way, because it was in the vein of Aleister Crowley and the OTO. Like they adopted a lot of those principles. And so it's like, it's not as if they were trying to distance themselves in any real way. Like they almost wanted it to be obvious that was, at least it seems, even though they function much more as a secret society than a cult organization, in my opinion. Especially, it doesn't function the same way as, like, let's say even Jonestown, right? Like this was, they were very secret. They were very covert in the way they operated, and sworn to secrecy in many ways. They kind of did like eyes wide shut parties for their initiations, and wielded allegedly, according to Demambro and Jouret, who were the two founding members, that merged this idea together in '84. So they
real quick. I don't mean to throw off your train of thought, but obviously, also I want you to save some for your episode because I know you're going to cover this later. But did you watch Sam's most recent, or it just dropped today? Sam's most recent episode with Adam Green. Okay,
what was it about?
It was they covered a lot of like Abrahamic religion stuff. Obviously, focused
I saw it
Jew
drop.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But they just focus on Abrahamic stuff, and he kind of, I'll be honest, he kind of is a very similar perspectives to me in a lot of ways. When it comes to religion, I think he kind of made a point, a few times throughout the show with him, that he kind of framed it just Abrahamic religions in general, between fucking, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism kind of are all like a dialectic altogether, essentially, in their own sense, kind of like one's a reaction to the other or whatever, like almost like they're forming the reaction in a sense. I mean, it's a deep discussion. I suggest people go check it out. That's kind of what I think is the case. But God, I do think, but he does have this thing where he kind of does this thing that I think a lot of, and I haven't checked out a lot of Adam Green's work. So, and it sounds to me like I get the vibe, maybe the little bits I have, he does kind of come off a little bit like the Reddit atheist type. I mean, I have a lot of similar views, I think, to him, but he does, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I'd actually be interested in having him on, but he does the thing where he kind of like, maybe I didn't. It was only one episode, so maybe he just like, because he kind of, Sam was also doing like rapid fire questions, but it almost seemed like he breezed past the Satanism stuff and then just went to the age old like, looking at it from the Abrahamic perspective of like, and looking at it as an atheist and being like, no, Satan is like the controlled opposition that they use like within their ideology. And kind of, I don't know if maybe you just didn't want to delve into what I think, Sam might have been getting at with Satanism, like when we talk about it, because these are like two different things. I get what he means. Like in the Bible, there's Satan. And if you want to look at it in an atheist way, you could be like, this is the guy that says, bad things happen to you. And so like, this is the immediate setup against God. No, I'm just talking about these evil groups that do weird, fucked up shit. And they do seem to come from these occult groups. And so I think there might be something to because he's the kind of the opinion that this is kind of like in a crazy way and like in a I guess anti-Semitic way or whatever that Judaism does kind of control the world in a certain component, because it's one of the earlier forms of it, and it's almost like these offshoots, Islam, Christianity, are almost like this dialectic that's formed to serve their purpose. So so, and I think there's some stock to that personally. I know my Christian audience may not like that. It is what it is. But either way, I think there might be something to this satanic component that we talk about as being those ones that may have a little bit more of that inside knowledge, might be the actual group, as opposed to, I know I said Judaism. Okay, I don't really think that's even necessarily the right way to look at it. There's like something beyond that even like Judaism was almost like the original one that they based off things to manipulate people and create dialectics, like the elites in charge, and that kind of offshoot to create further or whatever. Like they kind of created narratives around these. I'd suggest people check it out. But my point being is, it is almost like I think that those might be the people more in the know that are like able to lord above it all and do their awful things and manipulate people to their whims. You know what I mean? Right. So I mean, it's obviously that's a fucking 3-hour conversation on its own right there. So like I threw a lot, but I think there's something to that. I don't remember why I even brought it up. I just thought it was interesting to why was it even relevant? I don't even remember what it was relevant to. We were talking about. I went down such a rabbit hole.
I think it was just basically because
we were talking about occult shit. Yeah.
Yep.
So I was trying to
and kind of the OTO connection to the OTS, right? And
because these old ancient societies like the Templars, whatever they are, kind of like the whole idea of a cult is like what, hidden truths or whatever. So it is kind of like it is almost like, I think there is some truth to it. I know you see people like Aleister Crowley and you're like, look at this goofy fuck. But I do think to some extent, like, these people may have had some inside track of knowledge of something in how the world is manipulated.
I think he was a spook.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of that's kind of what I'm saying at the same time too. It's kind of like these groups, they're like that they call themselves Intel, they call themselves Satan worshippers, they call themselves this, but it's kind of this amorphous blob that kind of does fucked up shit.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and it's funny that you say that, because there are aspects of Christianity that are clearly adopted within this doctrine of the OTS, allegedly, and I mean, to the extent to where they even evoke a immaculate conception, right? And claim to be basically preparing for what they call the solar God King, who is in essence the return of Christ for them.
It sounds exactly like the archetype of Messiah, Moshiach. See how these are all, that's kind of what I was getting at with what Adams Green's sort of like rough theories, like these same narrative things. I mean, hell, you can even break it down to stories and how stories are created. These are common elements and things, and they become present and common in different religions. So it's like, I don't know, whatever, you can still believe your one religion's right and believe all these things are still like, but anyway, you get my point. Like, it's like this archetype.
100%. And it's very clear, like, as far as they adopt, like, because it's funny, because like DeMambro's kind of like, he's not quite as much of the homeopathic esoteric character as Luc Jouret, as far as the founding members are concerned, but it's basically what Luc Jouret was like kind of the face of the group, even though DeMambro is kind of described as more the controlling individual behind the scenes, but who knows if that's really accurate. We'll see. I haven't done quite as, it's mostly just kind of cursory research that I've done. I haven't done quite the deep dive that I would like to, but that that will be occurring this
I'm
week.
looking forward to it. This will be fun. I love that you're reeling down this rabbit hole because I know the way you approach these things, and this is stuff, the type of things you've been covering lately. I feel like the things that mostly are being attacked from the other end, the people who come at it from the, and I'm not even saying this in a bad way, of like people who like to come at it for, I guess you could almost say more of the woo woo, or more just coming at it from like. You're more coming at it from like fact-based, looking for specific things and attacking it that way, whereas a lot of people come from looking at it from like a almost a meta like analysis, I guess you could say. So people are like, look at this group, look at that group, but you're coming at it from the other angle. So it's like we're almost like fleshing it out as we go and listen to your show. So I find that to be interesting because like it usually comes from the other end, like I don't know, for example, like our buddy, Gray Pilled. I've been listening to a lot of his stuff lately, or at least particularly a lot of his like Anunnaki stuff, where he covers it, and that kind of bleeds into like how a lot of
I'm gonna have to
religions
get
may
into
have
it,
come
honestly.
into. It's interesting dive, and it's kind of the idea because that's like just based off the Sumerian religion, and then how then religion sprouted from there, and kind of like how these entities may have been the bases for different. So a lot of people come at it from that way, and I think it's a fun way to look at it. And so I do think that's interesting. We definitely, I think we do definitely have some other stuff we probably want to cover. You did, our homie, Namrock, I had a point that I kind of lost it, so I lost the thread, so I figured let's do a hard segue. But you were on Namrock show, our homie Namrock, Namrock. Is it out yet? Or is he like,
I don't think it's out officially yet, but yeah, it's waiting in the wings. I'm excited for him to, because he basically announced that his show's coming down. It's just a matter of time, and so he said it should be up this week. So he'll let me know for sure. But yeah, we
just kind of cover a slew of topics or what?
It was fun, man. Namrock said nope, not out yet. But
well, hurry the fuck up, dude.
Yeah, what the hell, bro? No, but it was fun as hell. For like 2 hours, we just chopped it up, man. Casual, but we covered a shitload of different stuff. So, we got into, I went a little hard on the gays, but they deserve it. It's Pride Month, so it's okay. But no, it was a good ass time though. He's good dude. People.
You also went on the Jacob. I don't even know his last name. I think it says Jacob J. I think is what it's or something on his channel. But he's Rise to Liberty. And he's been. We're doing I did a false memory syndrome series with him right now. I think I have him back on Thursday. So, but I mean, I obviously got to be a patron to get that early. But me and him are covering that. You went on his show. So I thought that was kind of cool. Man. You're doing the rounds.
Yeah, it was funny. I didn't even realize that he was the guy that you had on for the FMSF series that you're starting. Yeah. I was like, wow, what the hell? Because I listened to it that morning. I think your FMSF episode had dropped. And so I listened to it right before I went in and recorded with him. But
like, wait,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I was like, what
you didn't dawn on you till you were there?
No, as soon as I saw your episode drop, I was like, what the hell, dude?
Oh, okay. And, I thought that was funny. Like, you listened to the whole episode, didn't know what he looked like. No. I'm like, oh, shit, what the fuck?
Right.
But I do think, I think the Trump thing happened before. Did that happen? That wasn't a week ago, was it? Because we had Charlie Robinson on next week. Oh, real quick, I do want to remind the audience, next week we're doing Thursday instead. So we're swapping to Thursday, so... Thursday at 9:30, pop in. We'll have another Already Dead. What was I just saying? Fuck, what would I say before that?
Oh, the Trump verdict.
Yeah. That was after our episode, Charlie, right?
It was after our episode.
Fucking 34 felonies.
My God.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking about, I think, on our, we recorded Watergate, so I don't know if we talked about on the show a little bit, so that's behind the paywall right now, I think. I think that might be coming out on Friday, so for those people waiting for that. We went into a lot into the Watergate stuff. We were intending to actually get into the robbery. We didn't even get into the robbery. We just got into like Fed versus Fed stuff and like what groups were with what group. And so like bad guys versus bad guys and what's going on type thing. So which was kind of fun.
It's pretty fascinating though. Yeah. Like those dynamics are they're just insane when you realize how many moving parts there were in this time and leading up to the moment and all of that. It's just
you juxtapose this with what's going on right now too.
100%, man. Yeah, and that it's strange for me because I try so desperately to not lose sight of all that I'm learning with the details that of these cases and scandals like Watergate or something like that. Because why else do we research these things than to clearly apply the lessons to current modern times? I mean, it feels like it's necessary and it should obviously be a part of what we're attempting to do. But
Yeah, it is
I
weird
seem to,
that we just now are covering Watergate and this just popping off. I'm like, this
I know,
series may
right?
be far more relevant than I figured it would be. Kind of
Definitely.
history rhymes a little bit. It is wild. We got 34 felonies, but I believe my understanding, I haven't, this is not at all expert opinion. I haven't dug into this hardly at all other than what I've heard here and there. But it's my understanding there's 34 counts of the same fucking count, essentially. And they're
It's
all like
exactly
essentially
what it is.
clerical errors of some sort,
Right.
essentially, and for his hush money bullshit. So it's like super petty. Like this thing where like, I don't know, like if you jaywalked and you fucking
Dude.
checked, got each individual step as a separate
It's a
charge. You're
joke. Like,
yeah, it's like,
I
it's
don't.
literally ultimately the same overall charge. So even if you were
Right.
going to justify it's a felony, like, can we just say it's one? Like, really?
Yeah. Please. It's intentional, obviously. One, to be able to say 34 felonies,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's a huge aspect of it because obviously the political football becomes convicted felon, right? Like pursuing the presidency or God forbid, right? These
It's almost
ridiculous
like a perfect Moshiach story.
right? These stop it. These ridiculous hollow charges.
Yeah.
God forbid they don't stand up and he gets off, or he wins the presidency, he wins the election, nothing inevitably happens.
Yep.
And then they point to, look at the corruption within the justice system and this criminal, monster within the White House that's obviously derailing our democracy, right? And
great. I wanted to point out. You don't probably hang out on Twitter as much as I do, but I just found it really entertaining that Jake Shields recently has been like just pointing out with Trump at this moment to like all his Israel connections and how much he sucks Israel's dick, and like all of MAGA is fucking mad at him. And they're all like, right. and I've seen multiple people make the argument like, well then, because like I think Adelson, he took money from him, and so that was one of the things he pointed out, and it's something like 100 million or some shit.
Remember when the Mercers, like it's like flipped on Ted Cruz and he just walks away from the room like he just got told, like Arrested Development, Michael Cera's character.
Yeah, but it's just great to see everyone that a lot of it seems the angle people are making is like, oh well then you should donate more, that way they're like he's not as beholden to that. Like that's the argument they're making. You're like, what? No,
Stop
you
it.
dumb fuck.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding? But it is great to see that because everyone is like, I mean, shit. Even a lot of my libertarian people are all like, "Hoorah, Trump!" And I'm like, I get it,
man,
the immediate reaction, and it's like.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying don't vote for him. It's just like, it's just gay getting caught up in all this faggotry, really. Like, what do you really think Trump's coming in here to save? Like, what do you think really? Like, don't get me wrong. There is like a catharsis and like, this is pretty dope. And when he comes in and all the people are upset and blah, blah, blah. But like, at the end of the day, he's going to come in. He's going to get his knees. He's going to put Netanyahu's dick in his mouth at like the worst fucking possible time. Like, like this is, and if you understand like the current, economic situation and foreign policy and just all the geopolitics going on, worst fucking time for it. Time. Like we're at a time right now where like it really could break the back of Israel, and I don't mean that in like a go to war or whatever. I just mean like the propaganda machine, like. Then this is going to come in and sweep in and bring this red tide of MAGA that's all hoorah, look at our great Messiah God Trump that went from this, was downtrodden by the elite, and now he's coming back in, and this is all going to fucking, and he's going to save us. Like, no. Like I'm sorry, like I know everyone's like, oh, you make it all go back to Israel. It kind of, I mean, at the very least it's a good sign of where their values are at. Like, or their level of understanding. Like, because if you're this America First person and you're being like, but we need to suck Israel's dick, we need to go and spend money so this country may not have beef with them or whatever, or we need to fund their defense. How? Like, at the very least, like that's not, you're not upholding your values at the very least. And it's like you're creating perverse incentives where you have this state in another country that is become basically hostile with everyone around them, and we're supposed to be their big bully. Like, I don't know. It's just I don't know. And I understand it. I understand people being like, yeah, and there are probably some positives to come out of it, but I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I really feel like it's that worse if Biden stays in, to be completely honest.
Well, I
don't fucking know. Like, it's really like, so I'm not gonna get caught up in this fucking fervor of like, hoorah. If anything, I almost kind of like the idea of this fucking decrepit fucking retard that somehow, clearly fucking, fudged his way to, like, it's such a high degree of the emperor has no clothes that it kind of fits my fucking, it kind of fits my needs, as opposed to this savior person that comes in and a lot of people buy this false hope into. You know what I mean? That's really, at the end of the day, going to have probably roughly the same substantive effects either way.
Right. Exactly, man. And if anything proves that clearly there's a cabal behind the scenes and unelected bureaucrats really just the puppeteers of global society, and these elected officials are so, I mean, it's blatant how there are just puppets. And for anyone who doesn't believe that, really consider how much members of Congress understand the legislation that they push, that they attempt to pass. Most of the time they don't even read it, man. And so the concept, the idea that these elected politicians are actually in control of any policy being, decided, it's just not happening. It's you have bureaucratic think tanks. Oh my God, bro.
All my libertarian buddies, how that's working out for you?
Oh my God. Oh, what was that show he was on with that girl that just roasted his ass about?
Who's that? I didn't watch it. He was on Reason.
Care.
Which was nuts that Reason is the one chastising them. For anyone who knows like their dynamics within the movement, like they are kind of the Chase Olivers of the libertarian movement, and they're like, "Yo, stop being a faggot." Like that's the level that it's gotten to,
which is so hilarious.
Which, to be clear, not that I even care. This is our fucking show. Be offended if you want, but my buddy Reed put a good tweet when this happened. He said, I don't even care that he's gay. My problem that he's a faggot or something like that. It's along those lines. And that is true. Like, I mean, if you understand that guy's stances, if you even care about libertarian politics, like, he sucks.
Oh, yeah. Obviously.
I don't know what to tell you. Sorry. But
yeah. And I mean, it's just, I do think there's value to the fact that Biden is forcefully removing the veil from many people who just at the very least consider the fact that he's not in charge, right? So if he's not in charge, who is, right? You just have to naturally ask that follow-up question. And I think that alone is valuable because at least,
where's that one place that all politicians seem to go to and then prostrate themselves next to a piece of ancient architecture and act like they're, have these intense emotions that are pouring forth as part of the show, because that's part of the whole idea of going to this place. I don't know. That seems like some sort of weird, mind fuck of some sort that has to happen to, all the major players in this world. I don't know. It seems weird to me. And it just seems to get passed off as just some normal, like, this is just like visiting some religious leader. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Malay and Argentina, I mean, it's like the same exact fucking thing happens, right? Yeah. And it's like he's supposed to be a savior as well. And every one of these people seem to consistently bend the knee when it comes to who is truly running global politics on the geopolitical chessboard.
That is my big thing with Javier. I mean, to be fair, I don't know. I don't speak Spanish, so maybe there's a bunch of shit that I'm missing some sort of context, and I don't follow him all the fucking time. But yeah, I mean, like, it is, a lot of the stuff is great, but I'm sorry, that is a huge red flag for me. Like the things where I've seen him at the Wailing Wall and how, and I get it. You can be, I'm not even saying someone can't be Jewish or be whatever.
Yeah.
But something about the degree and the way to which he's gone about it, like it's, I don't know, it just
Too
it
good
makes
to
me
be true, Malay.
and
is
it's
for
my
me.
understanding he's said a lot of things specifically in regards to Israel. I may be wrong.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm sorry. Like if you're like, oh, he's perfect, but he's all about defending Israel. And then
Right.
it's like, well, then I don't really think you're perfect. Like, I don't, like
Far from
especially
it.
if you're coming from my camp of like Austrian economics,
Right.
and like supposedly being super based on like libertarian policy and stuff. It's like, well, I don't know if I really trust your credentials all that much.
Right.
I'm sorry, like, because
Definitely.
it really is, and this goes to the point that it really isn't just about a Jew thing. Like you just once you understand, even if you start, even at surface level, understand the money, like then you're just like, I'm sorry, I mean, what the fuck are you talking about? And then if you understand the foreign policy, then I'm like, dude, like, I don't trust you.
Oh yeah, and the reaction that you mentioned earlier, the reaction to this verdict, yeah, it had me sick to my stomach for a minute. I'm seeing all these people who are allegedly libertarian ANCAPs or whatever the case may be, and I just like, I understand, all right, but you have to acknowledge that you clearly are suffering from some sort of God complex, some savior complex that you can't conceptualize. I just don't understand the notion, right, that a savior will come in the form of a government official. Once again, that's not in the cards for me, right? And again, that falls in line with like many of the conservatives as far as, right, the divine prophecy being fulfilled, and right, and it becomes a huge, it's just a huge argument that it's almost impossible to break through that barrier. But I really do believe that when you realize like this Trump derangement syndrome has been inverted to this extent, to where you have people who 100% are, well, and also keep in mind, what did you immediately see? I saw sponsored ads running for campaign donations. I am a political prisoner, right? And it's like, okay, well, everybody clearly forgot about January 6th, and that's why I tweeted that, just because I'll never forget, like, seeing some of those people who inevitably, resulted in ending up in solitary confinement, basically being tortured, and he condemned them, and so it's like, for I don't understand living through that moment, and not remembering how little he was concerned over his most loyal supporters and what inevitably happened to them. And so once again, it's like all I've seen is hypocrisy come from Trump from day one, and so his Zionist agenda was diabolical. And anybody who is allegedly anti, as far as like funding Israel, because I'm at the very least like, we should not be funding international governments, foreign governments, and to any extent, in my opinion.
It's like lowest level, like, and that should be super easy to buy in,
right?
Like, so that's why if like you're there, you lose me already. Like if that's really your line, okay,
right?
Like, I mean, especially once you understand, we're at the level where we've dug into it like we have, and you understand the blackmail networks and stuff, and we're talking about important people. So you're like, oh. It puts off. It doesn't necessarily mean. I guess there are good faith explanations for this stuff, but it is just like, it's not worth it. Like if I'm supposed to in any way put any sort of faith into you, at the end of the day, I have an understanding of that you're beholden to people, very beholden. A great example of this is RFK. Look at that motherfucker. Remember when he first came into the race? Like don't get me wrong. Like I still was never really planning on voting him. I didn't get caught up in it, but I was like, all right. Like before the Israel stuff popped up, I'm like, this
Yeah.
motherfucker is interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, dude, I'm
Same.
railing against the fucking vaccine. He does not buy the official narrative. And like, he doesn't think Sirhan killed his dad.
Nope.
So like the implications of that are wild.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like, okay, then what do you really think happened, there, Robbie? So it's like, you probably think some crazy CIA. So like, you probably have some pretty dope. So just the very fact of you running, but then what immediately? Israel just like slaps you in the face. It's
Oh, yeah.
it almost was like a testing ground. Let's see how conscious these people are of this. Let's give him
definitely,
like
man.
almost a board. Like, don't get me wrong, he was shit on like economics and stuff, but like whatever. Like they all are. But it's like,
Yeah.
let's give you a borderline perfect so far as breaking the back of like the powers that be, and then just throw this and see how conscious they are of that. Like, no, that's not happening, dude. Like, let's see how conscious they are of that, and then everyone's like, yeah, fuck you. Like that's where the consciousness is at. Yeah, there are people who still stump for him, but it's like, I mean, who the fuck is really stumping for RFK now after that? That like fucking matters, you know?
And all you really have to do, in my opinion, with Trump is explain to me Operation Warp Speed. Explain to me why the savior brought us the COVID agenda. Why look, and then people will try and argue with me and say that they had to implement the COVID agenda in order to basically remove him from power, right? Okay. Well, I'm open-minded to that, right? But so he didn't have the ability to fire Fauci. He didn't have the ability to, like, it's just, to me, he clearly wasn't in charge then. So how is he going to save us, right?
That face right there just says it all. You don't even have to listen to what we're saying. Just look at that face. Like, I know that sounds anti-Semitic, whatever, but just like, there is something to physiognomy sometimes. You're just like, look at that motherfucker.
Something is
like, you
wrong.
want to tell me you trust him, especially, and like, even just that aside, even if now you've seen his behavior, he's been put into the limelight. Like, I'm sorry. Like, just that's not the, there's just that. That thing has RFK in a leash. Should be enough to tell you, like, what the fuck is going on here.
Right.
But yeah, we need a transition over to the call-in portion. I saw someone in the chat complain that we hadn't even talked about Son of Sam because I did mention that. We'll get into that a little bit because you said, I think you found either new stuff or you're on Son of Sam or something.
Yeah,
like
Adam
that you want
tipped
to
me
talk
off
about.
to this additional kind of line of inquiry that I was unaware of, and man, it threw me down a rabbit hole that I was unprepared for, Adam.
Yeah. By the way, wait, no ad read this week. Just want to be clear, there's no bad feelings or nothing. Nadeau, I think, took like a month off from all of his advertising or something like that because he's getting new stuff. His soaps and all the stuff I was telling you about, that's gonna be coming in soon. So definitely, I mean, he's not paying me, so I'm not gonna do ad reads, but definitely go support the homie. Just saying. He's got that coming. He's got new inventory stuff. So hopefully he'll be advertising with soon. But if there are other people who do want to advertise out there with us, for my show, kind of whatever, hit me up. I'm open to do it. But yeah, obviously it's gotta be product I like and shit like that. And it doesn't mean you own me. I'm gonna still say whatever the fuck I want. Which luckily Nadeau is base as fuck, so he didn't give a shit. But anyways, let's get into it. I got the call up 941-281-5857. We're gonna start. Does Austin have his own channel? I've seen you, Dr. Cabo's Feel Good Fun Time Mezzin Show. I've seen you a lot recently in some of my like premieres when I drop them in the middle of the day, so maybe that's like a better time for you. But you definitely have some interesting things to say. We interact a little bit in the chat, one of those. But Austin does have his own channel. He's got an Underclass podcast. This show gets put out on mine and his. He doesn't have a YouTube channel, so it just goes on my YouTube and my Rumble. But it'll go on as a audio podcast on his and mine later. He's got a great show. I can't fucking vie for it enough. I've checked out his entire catalog now. A lot of great stuff. He usually breaks them up by specific topic. I'd suggest starting from the beginning, or I guess a lot of them are stuff if you've been in this realm that you may not really need to. But I do think there's good stuff in a lot of them. I mean, you can start from because he did kind of, you started from the bottom and worked up. You kind of covered all the basic ones. And then now you're to the point where you're like, fucking Charlie Day with doing like an hour and a half podcast.
I don't know how I got here.
Yeah. Connecting fucking Gladio to fucking satanic cults and shit. So, but yeah, a lot of good stuff in there. It's great for, I think, a lot of new people like that do want to get, like, if they want to find an entry point to like parapolitics. But it's also good for the people who are deep into it, especially if they're following along with your later episodes or your newer episodes. But your earlier stuff is very much like, hey, if you want an entry point, it's great, because it's like you started out, your first stuff would be like, I don't know, a 30-minute episode on MK Ultra or 9/11 or something. Like that was kind of like the format. But now you've gone to the point where you've gotten so deep, you're doing like hour and a half episodes on fucking satanic cults.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, but I highly recommend people go check it out. You're really well produced. Just like solo stuff, you digging through it. So definitely go check out his show. He does. So, but yeah, we'll get into questions. I have the call up to, so you guys can call in at 941-281-5857, or if you are patrons, you guys can come in on the StreamYard. But yeah, let's get back into Son of Sam. You said Adam, put you on to some shit with the Son of Sam.
Oh yeah. And by the way, I should conclude my thoughts from the Trump derangement syndrome stuff just by saying that voting is clearly fake and gay, and
100%.
Yeah. I'm
Super
not even
gay.
going right. Yeah, 100%. But anyway, but yeah, freaking Adam, man, he DM'd me with this insane connection that I didn't know about this guy. His name's Manny Grossman, and he like did this like. He's doing some great work, and he did like this crowdsourcing investigation that he's heavily involved with, doing all these like walk-in talks with all these individuals. He's like basically from the area where the Son of Sam murders happened. And so Adam, I'm pretty sure Adam actually had him on his show. And I haven't gotten to watch that yet because
by the way, for those who aren't aware, our producer Adam actually has a great podcast. I don't think he puts out anymore. Maybe he'll get back into it at some point. But he has a lot of good stuff. Deborah Gets Red Pilled podcast. There's a lot of good stuff there too. He's got a lot of good God, I'm all tongue tied. Oklahoma City bombing episodes. Got a lot of good ones of those too. I've checked out all of those. So,
definitely.
But anyways, go on. Sorry. We have a producer who's a deep wealth of knowledge. He keeps us on track in the private chat. He brought up earlier the Dan Mitrio and Brazilian connection. I forgot what we were talking about. I don't know if you remember how that tied in. But we have him. Whenever we're stumbling over concepts, he usually saves our ass and brings. He's like, "You guys mean this?"
Right. We got somebody saying Manny's a bad man. He's a shill, allegedly. So I need to look into him a little bit more. But I will say what I heard him saying, and I would like to hear Adam's thoughts, honestly, on that, since he met him.
Okay.
Yeah, this guy that he had on that is from the area. But I'm definitely open-minded. I just now found the guy, but
we got his daddy literally working Epstein's PR campaign for his first round. I don't know shit about this guy, so I don't fucking know. Let's bring on Adam to defend his honor.
Adam, defend this
guy. Is this guy part of the Gladio pedophile networks?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I don't know. I found this guy. William Ramsey started having him on, and he was just like a guy from it was either the Bronx or Yonkers.
Yeah.
And he lost his job. He was like a botanical gardener. He lost his job because he didn't want to get vaccinated. So he's just started doing like these walking tours with a selfie stick of like Untermeyer Park, and like he'd go by like the David Berkowitz's apartment and stuff like that. I mean, I look at people's last names first, so we can take what we want from that.
But life check.
Yeah, William Ramsey's was having him on a bunch, during the COVID times, and he was talking, and he came, he started coming on like right around the time that Netflix dropped that Sons of Sam,
interesting
series, which really sent me down the rabbit hole. I loved it. I know it's probably a limited hangout like everything else on Netflix, but definitely had some good stuff, and it promoted Maury Terry's book.
Right.
But so I had him on, kind of just talking the same stuff. It was all my podcasts. It's only like shows the last 100 of them for some reason. I kind of want to go in and see if I can get them all up. But it was like it was in like pretty early on in my show, so it's kind of buried down there. Maybe I'll re-release it, but William Ramsey's had him on a bunch of times, and then apparently, like, he's recanted. Like, he was going and finding all these people that were involved in the case, like, you know, high school kids that were getting molested by these like millionaires and Yonkers that had connections to it, and he was going deep. And then all of a sudden, he just stopped, and I think he like recanted and said everything that he was pushing wasn't true. And I don't know the whole story of it. I haven't checked out his YouTube channel.
Interesting.
That is crazy.
But,
I mean, if there's something to what the audience is saying,
yeah, and then I didn't know this Epstein connection or anything.
I mean,
like
I don't
that.
know.
I mean, like that's why I said the last name.
Yeah.
You know, that's
I mean,
what
I don't
ends
know.
up to me,
I don't know. He says he thinks occultists are stupid. Yet his moderator told me which. I don't know who the fuck his moderator is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I don't even know who the fuck this guy sounds like. That sounds like, though, I will say, I don't know the truth of any of this. These are just things I'm throwing it now. That would be kind of a perfect disinformation campaign. Yeah. You know, kind of like right at the peak of
timing.
Fucks. Yeah. Like.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it'd be interesting. Maybe I'll reach out to William Ramsey and see what he has to say. But
I'm curious what he thinks about
Dana
this.
might know about it too. Who knows?
Dana Duda, she's great.
I'm not sure, but she knows about all the funny stuff that's going on more than I do.
I found, now that you say that, I found it so strange the way he spoke about Maury Terry and the Ultimate Evil, because the one that I listened to with him with William Ramsey is he pretty much says that Maury Terry was a gatekeeper and that he had access to all these additional secrets and all this additional information and knowledge that he even knew the Carr brothers from high school, from school. He went to school with them, and that he was hiding a lot of what he actually knew about them.
That Maury Terry went to high school with the Carr brothers?
This is what Grossman was saying to William Ramsey.
I think they kind of just like brush over that as a coincidence in the book and the documentary.
Grossman said too. Yeah, is that was what he pointed to as the sort of implication that Maury was acting as a gatekeeper and keeping information from the public it was almost like, and listening to Manny Grossman say this, he was saying that described it as Maury saw it as his case, and it was like his story to tell, right? Yeah. And so I kind of thought, I definitely, he caught my interest immediately when he was saying that about Maury, but then hearing what he had to say about for example, this all he really did in this one aspect of the interview was pretty much, oh shit, we lost Jose. He'll be back.
I'll fill in.
It's got to be a connection, something.
Yeah.
But so when I was listening to him, I found that a little strange. But then I heard William and Manny discuss how they were on this chat forum, this chat room, and basically Maury Terry was also in the chat room and was under an anonymous name and had been discussing the case with this kind of like crowd-sourced investigation group that was still trying to kind of root out different details around the Son of Sam and all of this stuff, and that he had actually communicated with Maury in this chat room like often, and that later on Maury was outed as this anonymous individual. But I did think it was kind of nuts. What's up, buddy?
We got too close to the target or something.
I was worried for a second.
Yeah, the one thing I remember him saying that was pretty wild was what Manny said, was that I can't remember if he said he knew somebody he had like a friend whose dad was either like a cop or a firefighter or something, and somehow they had, you know how like they showed David Berkowitz's apartment and had like stuff drawn all over the walls and like holes poked in that said like Satan lives in this hole or something like that.
Yeah.
He said he knew somebody whose dad was like a cop or a firefighter who had ended up in that apartment like 2 days before the arrest, and it was like pristine and organized and clean and like nothing on the walls and stuff.
Oh, so, wow. That doesn't surprise me either.
Yeah,
it really does seem, and I mean, I know that there were police investigators policemen clearly were in the network and involved, and so that doesn't surprise me at all, right? And the same goes with the Order of the Solar Temple, which I've been researching recently. Is that same thing? Just like the Dutroux network, you have detectives and investigators completely implicated and involved in the network, and then even carried out killings on behalf of the organization and the group, right?
Yeah.
Which just crazy to me. But the as far as the Son of Sam connection with this Manny Grossman guy, what I found so crazy, and who knows at this point, I'm gonna have, like I said, I just it fits so perfectly, and that I want to believe it. So I hope it's true, and I will be digging into it further now, much further than I initially even planned. But what I did find insane is that he basically explains that there was potentially an intelligence operation being ran out of the Carr household, which obviously the sons of Sam, it was Sam Carr and the two sons, John and Michael, and John and Michael were much more a part of the killings. As far as I think, they're largely responsible for the letters. I think it could be even more, as far as the details are concerned, could be I'm sure the story goes much deeper than that, but I will say that,
and the Minot Air Force Base connection too,
right?
And and the Arliss Perry murder and all that.
The Arliss Perry murder, my God, isn't that insane? And I wonder if that security guard had anything. You know, the Manson 2 or whatever Berkowitz mentioned. He said that is who he like fingered him as the killer of Arliss Perry. And I'm trying to remember
the security guard.
Not the security guard, but
well, did you watch Sons of Sam?
I haven't watched the documentary. No.
Do you want me to give away the very, very ending of it to you?
Go for it. Yeah, I haven't watched it either.
So that security guard got cleared, and then for some reason they end up at the series like ends, and then it like comes back, and it shows like modern day police footage of like 2019 or something. The Palo Alto or San Jose police at like this shitty apartment, and it's the security guard. He's like an elderly man, and they're trying to get in, and they got their guns drawn, and he fucking shoots himself inside the apartment. I can't remember why the police are there. They go in, and then like in his closet, he's got a copy of The Ultimate Evil.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, which one's Ultimate Evil?
Now. That's Maury Terry's book on Son of Sam.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, you know, did you see? I just saw the other day. I fucking don't like my number. I think I didn't fucking give anyone's number out. I don't think so. Someone said something in the chat, but that was not. No, that was my number. That was the Google Voice number that popped up. Anyways, freaked me out for a second. I didn't actually dox someone, did I? But fuck, threw me off. God, no, I was thinking about Anton LaVey. It made me kind of think of that. I saw this thread about him recently. I'd never really done a dig on him, but he apparently was legit like working for Israel. Like he was, and he was literally a Jewish man that changed his name to Anton LaVey and was literally helping them. God, I wish I could. Wow. If I still had the thread.
He was a real life carny too.
Yeah. Yeah, weird.
You guys want me to reach out to William Ramsey? He'd be a good guest because he can go deep and make all the connections on all this stuff if you want.
I'm sure I could hit him up. Has he come on this show? I don't remember.
No, he hadn't come on already. Did.
Oh, okay. I've had him on my show to talk about like some of the satanic networks and stuff. But like when I was talking about like 764 and like 09A, I had him on because he talks a lot about 09A. Okay, yeah, dude said he was messing with me. Freaked me out for a second. I'm not trying to talk to you guys. I do care, all right?
Right.
So, I try to do my best when I bring these up because I can accidentally, but it is like a weird logistics thing of like having the call thing set up. So maybe one day I'll figure out better logistics. So any of you nerds out there, if you know better logistics for like a call-in setup, let me know because this is the best I got right now. But there's got to be ways that I can like, for one, make it so we can all talk to each other. And also maybe not have to deal with this annoying, like, accidentally pulling it up. Because you guys see I'll bring it up on the screen and then try to take it off real quick. I don't really have a way to just bring it to the back. I don't know. I haven't figured out a way without, like, showing you guys. So I know it might be distracting. Little fucking producing stuff here. I know this isn't great content. But Just letting you guys know. If you guys want to help out the show, feel free. Make edits. Help me out with stuff like that. We're all pretty much tech tards here. We're just all parapolitics heads, so we like talking about this kind of stuff. But yeah, we should definitely get Ramsey on. He would be great.
That would be fun as hell.
Because this is his wheelhouse. Yeah,
I loved listening to him with McGowan, and I just like I heard
he had McGowan on.
I know that,
or was that one of he plays old clips?
His Visigoth ones.
Yeah, he plays all the Visigoth stuff.
Yeah, the Visigoth with McGowan, but he played it, and I'll never forget it because it was involving the Laurel Canyon connection and all of that. But what we were just talking about and what Adam just mentioned with the Arliss Perry murder on Berkeley campus.
No, it was Stanford.
It was Stanford. Okay, I thought it was Berkeley. I don't know why. Probably because all the MK Ultra shit. I don't know, but. Anyway, so Berkowitz had fingered this guy, William Mintzer, I think is his name, and he's the guy that Berkowitz called Manson 2. And they all had like nicknames, like Berkowitz went by Berkey, and like, you know, they all like had like specific names that group members allegedly referred to them as, apparently. But
Howard Stanton Levi, that was Anton LaVey's real
Oh
name.
yeah. I did. I read something about LaVey just recently.
Yeah.
That must have been in the same vein because but no, I did hear that Arliss Perry was essentially followed from, I forget where she was coming from, like Wisconsin or
no, they were coming from wherever Minot Air Force Base. It's either North Dakota or South Dakota.
That's what it was,
and that's where one of the Carr brothers was.
I think it's north.
Was stationed.
Yep,
and they're saying that I think Berkowitz had visited there and stuff like that.
Yeah, dude. And the 44s, like, basically didn't really have an owner, right? I mean, they were just being passed around, and it seemed like one of the 44s inevitably ended up in the same area that one of the Manson girls ended up. And that was in Wisconsin, which Rothstein claimed he tracked the process there after they left New York. So that makes perfect sense as far as I'm concerned. But this Mintzer connection as Manson 2, they claim that he helped found a satanic private club called Magic Island. Right. And Manson 2 is the one that is responsible for the producer Roy Radin and his death. Right. And
yeah, Cotton Club.
Yeah, dude.
Murders.
My God, man.
And that guy was a real sicko too.
Right.
He had like this gigantic house out in the Hamptons. And I guess they said there's like a whole gigantic room that was just like leather, like a leather couch. And they have these disgusting Coomer like
he was into
orgies,
dark leather fetish stuff. That's what he had mentioned. Also, he mentioned that Johnny Gosch was just a part of this individual within that network had a paperboy fetish. And that's why when Noreen warned the authorities that a paperboy was going to be abducted on this specific date, the specific weekend, and then it happened, right? Like right after that, it fucking happened. And it was apparently, I don't know. I mean, again, Nick said that, but I don't know. Like I literally heard Bonassi say that it was Aquino that ordered Johnny Gosch's abduction. But if
there was
like says it didn't happen,
there was like some like straight up convicted pedophiles working as like this paperboy supervisors of Johnny Gosch's like paperboy job.
Jesus.
Like his boss was like a convicted pedophile.
Of course. There's
like, so surprising. I forget the name of the podcast. There's a long podcast about the whole Johnny Gosch case, like 30 episodes. I forget what it's called, but yeah, they talk about all that. It's crazy.
Dude, send it to me if you remember.
Okay, I'll try to find it.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. But I know Terry wrote.
If Aquino had a part though.
Dude, not at all. Not at all. And I know that he was, clearly he was doing business with Lawrence King and
apparently Aquino made death threats to Mae Brussell over mentioning him in relation to Johnny Gosch. And for those who aren't aware, Mae Brussell she's kind of like I don't know if I'd necessarily say she was like an earlier version of Alec Jones, but I guess sorta. I mean, it sounds like she was a little bit more like less what's the word I'm looking for? Less how would I describe what Jones is? It's a conspiracy. I feel like she was a little more grounded. Is my vibe that I've gotten from the little bit I've looked into her. A little bit more like in our vein, sort of, as opposed to like in the global sectors. Like
right.
Shit, you know.
She was like a housewife that just went deep on JFK, I think, and then like got into everything after that.
She was awesome. Like a lot of her research is pretty legendary. I have to read more of her stuff, honestly, because she seems to be a wealth of knowledge. And she was talking about, remember that mentor that I had mentioned in the Watergate series that was basically discovered Henry Kissinger? I can't remember his name right now, but also had discovered Alexander Haig.
The big new Brzezinski?
No, not him. It's a crazy name.
Yeah, you mentioned it in our Watergate episode, right?
I know, dude. It's escaping me right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, she had written about him and basically said that he had like Nazi ties.
Oh yeah, because we were talking about we talking about Ratline shit? I think we were talking about Ratline stuff. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And I was like, oh no.
It is weird how that you start talking on those threads, it really gets into like, what the fuck was going on in World War II? What was really going on?
100%, man.
Like I think I know we're all fans of Sam. I think he's pretty somewhat on the money, at least in some sense. And like it wasn't World War II wasn't what they sold it to you as or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's a little bit more to it than that. I do think it's one of those things where both parties were kind of ultimately controlled by the same people in a certain sense. So it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. People died and a lot of fucked up shit happened, but that's kind of the point. Like, okay,
it's always them. It's the same group. It's always them.
Right.
They have last names. You can look at what their last names are.
Right.
Basic shit. You know.
Stop it, Adam. Adam. That's great. Oh,
you're not wrong. Dude. They seem to have similar sounding names. I don't know. There's trends at least. I don't fucking know. I mean, they changed them a few times in history. They don't seem to like evade, but you know, they seem to always fall into gold and stuff. I don't know.
Right.
Rub their hands together, gold, all sorts of weird stuff.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, whatever.
So,
I don't give a shit.
Beyond that Manson 2 connection to the Arliss Perry thing, though, that Berkowitz had fingered him for that potentially being the murderer in that. He was during the Roy Radin murder. Mincer was a bodyguard for Larry Flint, who was the founder of Hustler magazine. And
yeah, I'm sure that guy was into some dirty stuff.
I remember this
what
little
we
factoid
know about,
somewhere too. I believe Aquino's first wife was part of the Ratlines as well. Yeah, I vaguely, I don't remember where I heard that bit from, but I've heard that somewhere. I mean, so take that to the bank. It's 100% true. I heard that somewhere one time.
Oh no. I gotta stop saying fingered, I guess.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, when you're talking about a lot of these people that we're talking about, fingered is probably a lot of times the wrong word to use.
You're right.
Even if they are the quote unquote good guys in the story, a lot of times they're not really. They're kind of once you get deep in these, it is like the bad guys versus bad guys. Like that's what I was getting with like Watergate, right. And I think it's kind of in a certain sense probably a lot what might be happening with this Trump stuff too. Like if you look at someone brought up Whitney Webb earlier. I just finished both her books recently. And it is like she does bring up a lot of weird connections. Now, I will say it does feel genuine in the way that the elites react to Trump. So they're doing a good job if that's an act. But either way, in effect, I feel like it's the same thing. But very well, there could be some, more lore going on, and that like maybe Trump was somewhat tied into these people, but came hip to the game and was like, "Yo, what the fuck?" There could be something to that. Maybe that's why they really, really fucking hate him. I don't fucking know. But it is I don't know. It is interesting the company he keeps and for a long time. So I mean, when you look at some of his connections, it's like I don't know how many times can we have these connections without being like I don't know, man. What's going on here? I mean, like very very close connections, not just like he did business with somebody once. You know what I mean?
But it's like literally every single one of them. So you got to be like, okay, which one of them? They all do it. Which one is better than the other one?
I just feel like you're just like wasting your energy giving it.
Because like, Nayib Bukele kisses the wall, but I like him.
Yeah,
I wish he would do that here.
I can agree that there are better and worse, but at the end of the day, like, am I gonna waste an afternoon or put too much emotional energy to any of these fucking, kid fuckers? No. Like, not really. Like, at the end of the day, we could roughly get the same thing. As you can see now, like, kind of what the field is narrowed down to. We have Biden. Yeah. Like, what's the biggest thing, as we've alluded to multiple times on the world stage right now? It's Israel. And it actually has huge impacts for our, foreign policy going forward, our economics, all sorts of things. And look at the options we have. Every single one of them is going to essentially probably do the same thing.
I just looked at Twitter. I hadn't really been on the news or anything recently, but I'd like to tell everybody about Mexico's new president.
Oh, yeah.
The Mexican name, Claudia Sheinbaum.
Oh, yeah. First female president, also
Didn't
Jewish.
you say you had some shit to say about that, though? Because, don't get me wrong. I will say, just that on its face, okay, I get it, haha, we could say, but, like, is there actually something to that? I've heard some people do a little bit more digging that it seems like she's kind of corrupt and connected.
She's connected into the cabal of the World Economic Forum, and it's very obvious that she has these. I mean, it seems to me that what we have in Ukraine, we have a Jewish leader. In Mexico, we now have a Jewish leader. It's like the timing of this is perfect as far as
like
the world stage. Yeah. No, yeah.
It's like I pointed out with RFK, that felt intentional. That then now he must be prostrated in front of the world stage, and it's of the utmost important that he fillets Israel to the nth degree while still holding all his other positions, which just seems like complete cognitive dissonance. So you're like, what? It seems like a slap in the face. Just. Like, I don't know. I mean, as to bring up Sam again, he always likes to bring up, like, the Black Little Mermaid. And, like, who cares if it's just one little black mermaid? But when you see, like, a trend of, like, why the fuck are you making all the characters, different minorities from their original source material, or gay or trans, or, like, at what point you're like, dude, come on. Like, I get it. Like, one in isolation is, like, whatever.
Well, wasn't it Nintendo just implemented their first trans character who introduces the concept of selecting your gender into this child's game, and so it's like, well, I mean, what's the consequence of that? I mean, I know I was seriously affected by video games, as far as, like, that's how I grew up in that world, right? And so, like, I adopted a perspective and certain ideas from my pop culture influences, obviously. And so the idea that this has no effect on, generations of youth, it's just it's the next stage of the ideological subversion. And that is obvious to me. And when you see that this woman is not only a Jew, and, she's a climate scientist, right? Yeah. She not only has World Economic Forum connections, she's legitimately going to perfectly fit the mold, right? Of, here we go, ushering in and facilitating Operation Lockstep. It's the same thing.
I've heard murmurs that she's kind of locked in with some of the cartels and stuff, which I find this to be a great example of. I'm gonna have fucking Ken Silva back on the show next week.
Oh, nice!
I have him on Tuesday, and I'm covering the Epic Times. So I don't know if you guys saw one of his more recent pieces.
Oh, I saw that.
Epic Times, his previous employer is come to be found out. I need to read the article to get a little more specifics, but essentially this looks like they're a front company. They're being actually charged by the Biden administration right now. It looks like they're a front company for some sort of laundering for illegal activities of some sort. So, which is, to me, and especially when you add into, I've actually had Ken on the. We talked about this on the show forever ago. He's currently under an NDA, and he said he's under an NDA. So, like, you're allowed to say you're an NDA, so he can't talk about certain things. But he just so happened at that time, when he lost his job at Epic Times, to release a story about how am I not thinking of his name right now? The one OKC guy that is working at NASA, who used to be tied in with the Pause Foundation, I believe, or not Pause, the Cause Foundation, with Kirk Lyons, and he's a CIA guy. He's the guy who got Strassmeyer out of the country. or it's debatable how you want to frame that. But he essentially escorted Strassmeyer out of the country, and he was totally a CIA spook that was. Pretty sure it was like in his LinkedIn and everything, and he was in these neo-Nazi groups, and now he's working for NASA. And how can I not think of his name? It's really pissing me off. I can't think of his name right now. Fuck, I can't believe you can't think of it either.
I
Adam.
can't remember.
Shit, that's really gonna bug me now. God, and it's like fucking, it's like 101 shit. Like that's part of my.
Wasn't the guy from Arkansas, right?
He was no, he was also the one part of the first militia that Strassmeyer was a part of that he got kicked out of. He was the one that was leading that one.
TLI.
Yeah. I think he was the one leading that up. And yes, fuck.
I'll look up on my phone.
Yeah. But anyways, he that story got taken, like it actually was out for a while. Then it got Arthur Bloom actually wrote a piece on it. Because obviously, like Ken wasn't really in a position he could write an article on it. It's kind of hard to write an article about what you can't talk about. But Arthur Bloom wrote a piece on it because they released it and then took it off almost immediately, and Ken got fired, and now he's an NDA. So add 2 + 2 + 2. Look at the now that you've got fucking a front company. I just find it interesting to like point out that, and then also juxtapose that against like the possible suspicions that this lady may have drug connections. So it is like how this game is played. You know, like they create these front companies with these off books money they do, and they pursue their. And at the end, like some people may get burned for illegal activities in some place, but never the ones really that are doing it. And even then, it might be like minor characters, like what we're covered with Watergate. A lot of those guys that got busted, they were like these are spooks. A lot of those guys got busted and did time. But like let's be real, like they weren't like every now and then they burn some of their people, and a lot of times they'll hook them up or whatever, But some of those guys get burned. That's just how that works. But it's like it's kind of this like known thing. Like you can't really go against us. I mean, so Did you find the name? And it's really bugging me now.
No, I can't find it. God, I looked up Texas Light Infantry on Google, nothing comes up.
It's not Petruski because it's I know Petruski because it's one of the main guys when you bring up. It's bugging. He was the pilot. God damn it,
dude. That's what I was gonna say. The pilot from Arkansas. I know who he is. He's from Arkansas. I know the guy, but I can't remember his damn name. I'll pull him up on my notes. I know I have it in my notes.
Yeah, I know. My phone's being like really glitchy with the internet right now, so I wasn't gonna try to like switch over to Twitter to look because I'm sure I have a thread somewhere that mentions him. He is like a key component of a lot of that story. He is like one I usually bring up whenever I go on someone's show to talk about it. He always comes up. I just can't think of his name right now. It's
the reason
because he is like one of the ones that like, dude, this motherfucker glows. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, I mean, he's not like top of the list. You're not like talking about Roger Moore or like fucking Strassmeyer, but like he's kind of like what upholds like how Strassmeyer fucking glows so bright because this motherfucker was kind of hanging out between him and Petruski. That guy was fucking. Yeah, god damn it. All right, well,
I'm gonna find it, dude. I'm gonna find it.
No, it's not Barry Seal. Somebody said Barry Seal. It's not Barry Seal.
No, that's not it.
Yeah.
I do. I do want to say though that as far as like what dovetails in with this presidential election in Mexico is this Reuters article, right? That addresses the unprecedented rate of political assassinations in Mexico, setting the new rate, right? Of as far as the record is concerned, Mexico's election is now the bloodiest in its modern history after a candidate running for local office in central Puebla state was murdered on Friday at a political rally, taking the number of assassinated candidates to 37 ahead of Sunday's vote. Jorge Huerta Cabrera, a candidate who was running for a council seat in the town of Zúcar de Matamoros, was gunned down in the attack, according to the state prosecutor's office. The killing takes the number of assassinated candidates in the 2024 election season to 37, one more than during the 2021 midterm election when 36 candidates were killed. I mean, it's like that's just right. Status quo in Mexico, it seems. And you remember Alex Gibney, I think, did that documentary back in the day, Cartel Land. And wasn't it
Dave Holloway? Got it. Found it. There we go.
Okay, yep, that's it.
God, fuck, that was pissing me off. Dave Holloway, yeah.
He is the guy from Arkansas, huh?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if is he from Arkansas? I don't remember where he's from
I
specifically.
thought he was.
I mean, either way, like the part he played, I don't remember the specific location, but
he rushed him to a safe house. I remember that much. And then he got him out of the country, and then got him to do the only interview that they recorded, right?
With Rick Sherrow, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
You got over the bombs,
crazy story, bro.
Bombast, and something, and bullshit or something like that. I think it actually is like bombs, bombast, and bullshit. It's like a catchy one, and they just slap down all the stupid fucking theories. And you're like, it's not fucking that, you dumb fucks, and then like doesn't really address like. Really, like I think it just breezes over. Like, well, I mean, here's the sort of reason why it couldn't be C4. Like,
right, exactly, dude. So ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that was a fuck. Yeah, I can't believe I couldn't think of that. Dave Holloway. All right, fuck. I need to brush up on my OKC stuff.
Oh man.
Yeah, Dave Holloway. But yeah, he works for NASA now. Even though he used to be literally part of what I don't know if he was actually officially part of it, but I know he worked with definitely worked hand in hand with Kirk Lyons to some degree. Like he helped him. Kirk Lyons was like their lawyer over the Cause Foundation, and he was also like the lawyer for like a lot of the people over at Elohim City, Strassmeyer, blah blah blah.
Did you guys listen to that episode of The Farm that I sent you? Where that had him on there?
Oh yeah, that was nuts.
No, I didn't. Did you send it to our group?
I don't know if I actually sent the link, but I mentioned it in the chat.
I believe you sent it to us at one point.
It's Wendy painting. Yep. The guy from Cav Dev, George from Cav Dev, the guy with the real high pitched voice, and Recluse from the Farm, and that guy, Kirk Lyons. They do like a whole disclaimer at the start, like we don't agree with his politics because they're.
I mean, I don't either, but I don't need to fucking tell you that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I will say I want to give that to them. Like, don't get me wrong; those people probably don't. I mean, I don't know if I've ever interacted with them. I want to say I think I have one of those guys blocked. I don't fucking know. Either way, props to them. That was fucking dope. They pulled that off. Wendy painting and Kirk Lyons in a podcast. What? Like that's pretty nuts. Crazy. That's something.
Yeah, and they kept alluding, like her and Wendy and him kept like alluding to like the fact they're working together, to like he's trying to get her information and stuff for her new book and all that stuff like that. So,
do you feel some type of way like that, or I think it's a good thing?
No, I definitely think it's good. So, but for them, like they have to like that's like a real far left podcast.
Yeah,
but they do good political stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
but he'll have like that show, and then like the week after it'll be like how horrific January 6th was.
And honestly, I don't know what to make of Kirk. To be honest, I really still don't know to what degree he knows things or is part of things. I think obviously he's was being dishonest with some of the stuff he was talking about. But I don't know. He's an interesting feller. But because he actually agrees that he thinks John Doe 2 was an informant. That's actually if you look at Ken Silva's page, is like his cover photo on his Twitter page is that like a comment from Kirk Lyons on one of his articles that like, oh yeah, I agree. It was actually when I interviewed Steve Vassar. One of Yiki's buddies, that's what Vassar believed too. You kind of like said, as a police officer and having worked with, stings and stuff, it makes me think that like he kind of makes the point that he thinks that John Doe 2, considering all of that, likely was part of some sort of sting that went wrong, and the fact that they're covering it up is because, like, obviously it only makes sense. It's because he either is an informant or asset or something along those lines, So, right. With information, they'll burn them. And yeah, anyways, Ken wrote a piece on that, and then Kirk, literally commented on that like, yeah, I do think he's an informant. And you're like, that's kind of wild if you know about Kirk and the company he kept. You're like, dude, the company he kept glowed so fucking bright. And so you're like, are you just really that much of a country bumpkin that you just like really didn't somehow all this is going on around you and you're just like, yeah, whatever. I don't know. I mean, it just makes you question things. I mean, all right. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that? Because I did find that interesting. I would suggest people go check that out. Did you have any thoughts like in regards to that, Adam? Like with, just Kirk, your impressions of him like after? Because he is a weird character to me.
Yeah, I don't know the case well enough to be able to like read into what he was saying.
Yeah, you
all
get
that much
specifics. So.
Like if I'm taking it for his word, it was a great episode and stuff. But I'm sure if Richard Booth or Ken are listening to that, they're picking out stuff that's like, oh, that can't be true because you said this in the past and stuff like that. So I have a very I know a lot of names and a lot of stuff like that, but I got a very surface level understanding of the case. Like I've DM'd with Richard Booth a couple times and asked him about certain people, and he's like gone off like 3 layers deeper than I didn't even know existed. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, which they were very much doing that episode. I will admit, like, for those who are very interested in the Oklahoma City bombing, it is a great podcast. And we're like, whoa, but if you're like, don't really know much, they do get a lot in the weeds. So you're like, so it is about those who really are interested in the weeds, what that's for. And I am. I've gotten to that point where I'm like, holy shit. So there was a lot of stuff in there that makes you question a lot of the common talking points and this and that. Either way, that dude fucking glowed. I don't know. You guys got anything? We're an hour and a half. This has been a fun episode. We talked about a lot. I do want to kind of maybe cut a little bit short. I don't know if you guys have any other major stuff you guys want to talk about, and we can kind of get out of here.
One thing I thought was so crazy, dude, that when I was just looking into this, I guess I should finish. I never finished telling what that dude said that I thought was so extraordinary. Because if it is true, I mean, it fits perfectly, right? Especially with the fact that if you remember from my episode just recently, The Ultimate Evil, The Process Church, The Final Judgment, it's so insane because one of the individuals who was mentioned by Bugliosi, the prosecutor in Manson's trial, was that had came to visit him when he was questioning Manson about the Process Church, and Robert de Grimston went by the name Brother John, and he also showed up on Manson's guest list the next day, and then they published that article. But so Brother John was mentioned by Manny in this interview with William Ramsey, and it just again, it blew me away because, like I said, he was claiming that there were further additional connections to not only the Carr brothers being involved at a military base, but also their mother, right? Being, she was apparently, her name was Frances Carr, right? And she was a corporal in the Marines in 1945 and stationed out of Henderson Hall, right, in Virginia. And apparently it's, it's widely known as a place to, that the different intelligence operatives had been stationed and all of that. So, but beyond that, there's this connection in Yonkers to this group called Catholics for Latin America.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what he was saying was that they were importing untraceable children into
they're trafficking little Latino underachievers.
Exactly.
Like untraceable children. I just feel like that's a funny way to put it. It's like they're like money, like the counterfeit money.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. No, obviously awful, but
right, it is terrible. But
they were doing the Silsby before Silsby.
Exactly, dude.
In Latin America.
Haiti. Yeah. Right. But so I guess it just so happens that the brother-in-law of the Carr brothers was the head of that Latin American Catholics for Latin American Foundation and was a doctor, and they found dead children right across from his property.
Yeah, he had a big mansion right by Untermeyer Park, right? It's that guy? Yeah, all this stuff is like a couple years ago in my brain, but it's coming back now. Yeah.
And I didn't realize either that the Devil's Cave in Untermeyer had been blown up and just closed in and completely, so that makes sense. I mean, wouldn't you want to get rid of, it was an occult site, but who knows if it was blown up, but that was apparently on the record as being just destroyed and obliterated. But what I also found insane was that written in this book called Last of the Old School, which was written by this graffiti artist that went by the moniker Fuzz One, right? And he claims to have witnessed a satanic ritual sacrifice in Van Cortlandt Park, which we know this happened. As far as there's definitely, I heard Mike Cadella, this NYPD detective, he had a criminal informant who was a member of the biker gang that was enlisted by the process and this group, and a lot of these wealthy individuals who were a part of these rituals. They were employing this biker gang to flaunt their colors and basically keep the cops out of the area while they're performing the rituals, keep any riffraff out of the area as well, that sort of thing. And so you had a lot of bikers who witnessed things that, right, when let's say they became incarcerated later on, they were trying to use as a tool for their hopeful release, but still they became criminal informants, and they started running their mouth about some of the ritual sacrifices that took place and even some of the kidnappings. I forget.
Is this one of those things where the bikers were likely being used as an enforcement arm kind of deal?
It's exactly. It's literally
Straight Satans and the Manson.
Exactly. It's a part of the playbook, man. I mean, the biker gangs, what did they do at Altamont, the music festival, where all that shit popped off and everybody starts dying and they're all taking
probably a giant ritual murder.
Brother. It seemed like it. And so this Van Cortlandt Park scenario, though, hearing this described, it was exactly what Mike Cadella said, exactly what James Rothstein said. I was just like, if this isn't true, but so he claims that Fuzz One to have witnessed a satanic ritual sacrifice in Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx. And his story seems to match perfectly, like I said, with other similar witness claims of ritual sacrifices carried out in Yonkers and Untermyer involving prominent cult members such as a Brother John, who was an early member of the 22 Disciples of Hell. Fuzz One claims that he had met a child prostitute in Van Cortlandt Park. As a child prostitute, the boy allegedly picked up his Johns at night in the park. One night he was picked up and asked to go to a party, and all he demanded in return was payment. The man gave him $20, and they went to a location known as Frankie's Castle. The boy, called Ice, was subsequently drugged at the party, only aware enough to recognize what was going on around him. Yet he was unable to fight back and defend himself. What was then described is that a young boy of about 9 or 10 years old was placed on an altar inside Frankie's Castle. 6 men in robes surrounded him, chanting. They proceeded to disrobe when 2 women came out and sacrificed chickens, pouring the blood all over the naked men. The men began to urinate on the young boy.
3 times first, or no?
Right. The men began to urinate on the young boy and then subsequently raped him orally and anally before killing him as a part of this ritual sacrifice. But I definitely, as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what the criminal informant biker that was running security at Untermyer told Mike Cadella, the detective. And so for me, that fit just right. And the Brother John connection freaked me out. So in reality, I kind of do hope that he's retracted that. But also,
and this guy that we're talking about is this Manny fella, right? And so
Manny.
And now he's saying, supposedly, according to Firepix, he's now saying Detective Rothstein is a mentally ill, morally and spiritually sick person. I'm assuming, I may not be keeping track of the names. I'm assuming that was one of the good
detective,
guys. I guess,
he is, for sure.
Yeah,
well, I'm very skeptical of this guy now that they're saying all of this. And like I said, the William Ramsey interview that I heard him on, I was like, he was blowing my mind. He was blowing me away. I didn't see a reason.
Dude, I used to watch his channel all the time.
Yeah, he didn't strike me as someone until he started. And even when he was talking about Maury as like a sort of gatekeeper, limited hangout in a way to he still wasn't saying it as if he were certain of this. He was still trying to kind of defend him in a way. It seemed that way. Now I haven't been overexposed to his content, so I don't know, but I will be looking into him now much deeper.
Yeah,
But
I'd be interested to see if his channel's still up. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. Because honestly, I was just like, I was blown away by that interview with William, and like I said, a lot of what he was saying, he had to have been very creative because it is so in line with the stories that were actually taking place in Untermeyer and Van Cortlandt that it's like, why the hell would he even?
Assuming the fucking, assuming the one person who said he had something to do with Epstein's PR campaign before, I don't know where the fuck that piece, but if that's true at all,
crazy,
that's like,
bro.
that would make sense if someone's in the know, knows how these things work, says something that's like basically 100% on the money, but is able to come in and fucking boop, boop, later and kind of discredit everything.
Hey, what this guy's saying right here, it's very possible, and I am open-minded to that being the case. And I hope it's not, but I mean, of course, they're going to attempt to muddy the waters, and of course, they're going to attempt to, knock the credibility of as many independent researchers and investigators as they possibly can, and if they can in any, especially somebody like Maury Terry or Detective Rothstein. I mean, one of the longest standing veterans as far as investigating human trafficking in general in this, and truly seemed to be morally centered and ethical about his approach. And I mean, to me,
they did the same thing to Caradori.
Yeah, definitely, man. So it is an operation where they've consistently attempted to undermine independent journalism and
to be fair, I don't know this guy enough about this guy, but he could have been legit and then got kind of turned.
Yeah, got talked to,
got compromised. Yeah,
because that's I mean, you look at a good example is the Franklin scandal with all the different players involved, and a lot of people were coming out and willing to talk, and then a lot of them flipped and then left. What's her face, the main girl, kind of there with their. And she was the one who was like, I'm not going to lie. This is what happened. And like, even when everything was stacked against her, she stuck to it.
Oh, yeah.
Or like that guy that had terminal cancer in OKC.
Yeah.
That was going to talk and then didn't want to talk.
Right. And we're acting like Mockingbird just stopped too, like everything else, right? Mockingbird, they created...
Wait. Who got cancer in OKC?
Wasn't there some guy that said he was like full on PatCon?
Oh, he was the guy who talked to Jesse.
Yeah.
Oh,
he was
died?
like a PatCon agent. And
but he got like terminally ill, and that was one of the major factors that brought him to allegedly go forward and talk to Jesse in the first place, and like help expose some of this.
I don't remember if he was terminally ill. I just remembered he wasn't, like, he was just kind of like a failing health or something.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. Maybe he was failing health. I was thinking for a second, I thought to Jack Ruby for some reason immediately, because Jack Ruby didn't he get, he ended up getting like some weird cancer in prison. Like,
dude, fast-acting cancer. He's like, they were, I mean, he had individuals very close to him that, after his death, were certain that he was killed, and but by the way, this guy apparently is from Arkansas. Well, so am I, dude. I am from Arkansas as well.
Well,
all right, guys, it's getting late. I got shit I gotta do. Let's get out of here.
Austin talking.
We're getting lost in the sauce. We need to save some juice for next time. You also need to save some shit for your episode, but this is fun. This is a fun episode. I had a lot of fun here.
Thanks for letting me hang out, guys.
Hell yeah, dude! Of course, buddy. Made for a good episode. We'll have to figure out a good guest for next week. Kind of the rough template we're going for the audience, so we're doing like non-guest episode and then a guest episode. Just trying to go for like every other week. So maybe we should get someone who's in this vein. Maybe we should all dig into this stuff a little bit. So if you guys have any source material for this stuff that we might talk about, I do find it interesting, the component of this guy. I don't know whoever this fella, if he's legit or not. What's his name? It's Dan Mitrione. No, we're not talking about Dan Mitrione. Is that who we're talking about? What's the name of the guy we're talking about? Manny
Grossman.
Yeah, Manny Grossman.
I'm mixing up all the names. So many names thrown at me of stuff I haven't dug into, but it is interesting. But yeah, let's get it out of here, guys. Adam, do you have anything to promote before we? I'll pass it off to Austin after that.
Rising Tide Homestead on Instagram, and I'm going on Paranoid Americans podcast tomorrow.
Hell yeah,
sweet. Hell yeah. Tell
he's
Tommy I said what's up.
Yeah.
You can find me well, support me on Patreon or Buzzsprout. You now do get the direct link to StreamYard if you want to join us on these already dead episodes and chop it up. That would be awesome. Give us something extra to talk about. Beyond that, follow my show anywhere audio streaming platform, the Underclass Podcast. Follow me at the Underclass Podcast on Instagram, at Underclass Pod on Twitter.
All right, guys. If you want to support me, patreon.com/NoeJose2020. That's where you get early episodes. I put my stuff out, roughly it goes out to you guys, the patrons, about a week early, and it goes out to the public, later. I said that retardedly, but you know what I mean. But yeah, if also you guys can, you can pop in as a talking head on these episodes for the on the lower levels. But yeah, I do want to shout out my sponsors. That's the highest level of my Patreon. I shout them out every episode. And my co-host on Targang at Targang Toad. That's at Abrogate D's. He's the fucking man. At ZOVERACK. At _Infinite Zeal. Jacob Daniel of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast. He's one of my favorite Jews. Then and he's at Biblical Anarchy. Then my homie Tim Tuttle at Jolly on Klebold. And then my buddy Will Bell makes this delicious rabbit eye wine. Get you some. Let's get out of here, guys. Got some good stuff coming for you guys soon, and we'll have to figure out a good episode. Or if you guys let us know, comment on social media or whatever, what guests you guys want going forward. I have a few different ideas. I thought about maybe getting Am Green so we could dig deep into the Jew stuff, or maybe get the buddy talk about Anunnaki stuff or something. I don't know. What do you guys want to talk about? You guys want to get William Ramsey and get into that mode of a cult? I don't know. I'm open. You guys let us know what you want us to do. But with that, we out of here. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that gay shit. We out.